I can't. Will you
Now need you to make sure to
Yeah.
email out the
You got
link
beat out
for
Yes.
those. Thank you.
I've got one.
Oh, okay.
Well, you have to understand too, because last night I tried to get the statewide franchise for In-N-Out Burger, and Montel Williams kicked my ass. So there you go. I'm used to stars kicking my butt. Yeah. Actually, I like him. All right. For the whole state to buy the license. Yeah. Now I'm glad I didn't buy it, to be honest with you. All right. So let's shift this one over.
I heard myself. Yeah. In that order. Yeah, back in those days. I rode my bike up. Bicycle? Yeah, bicycle. No more training wheels though.
Actually, we had to put them back on.
Well, now that you know that, it explains a lot about it. Although, if you.
All right.
I'm no better on four wheels. No. We can do the stick front flip off. Land perfectly on my.
So I'm going to start today with a quick video because everybody knows that the labor numbers came out last week, and I thought this was a pretty good summary. So let's make sure we can hear it.
It's an Eric with the weekly update for week 31. I'm recording this update on Friday, August 2nd, after the employment situation report. The employment situation report disappointed consensus expectations across the board. The 3-month average of total non-farm payroll gains continues to trend lower, and the unemployment rate jumped strongly to 4.3%, down 90 basis points off the low point of the cycle. There is an open question as to whether the hurricane in Texas impacted the monthly job numbers, and this is possible, but what's more important is the trend that's been developing for the last 12 to 18 months. A trend is a trend, and it should be taken seriously when sufficiently forecasted by leading employment data, as it has been since late 2022. As always, we take our collective rating on the labor market.
Okay, I'm going to stop you here for a minute, though, because this is going to be important in the next couple of weeks while you're dealing with clients. Because I can guarantee the news cycle today, Kamala and her cronies are going, that's just the storm in Texas. Nothing changed. It's okay. Burning the building's on fire, move along, and all that. Trump's going to jump on it and say, that was negligible. Here's what it is. Okay. And this is part of the reason why I wanted to play this video so you guys understand, because when we go into the coincident index, you're going to find out that now we're taking, I think it's 6 different numbers and putting them together.
Or from a collective basket of indicators rather than any single data point. Non-farm payrolls, the employment level, aggregate weekly hours, the unemployment rate, and the insured unemployment rate
5
are all aggregated into our coincident employment index, which showed a monthly decline in July. More importantly, the growth rate of the coincident employment index has been below trend since the early part of 2023 and slipped into fractional contraction for the first time since the 2020 recession. On a longer-term basis, there has never been a time in modern history when the coincident employment index registered a sustained negative growth rate without the economy being inside a business cycle recession. A negative 0.1% growth rate is certainly not clear-cut and could come with revisions, so we have to see more data before we make a firm declaration. But again, the trend across the leading employment indexes of the last 18 months, now being confirmed in the coincident employment indicators, is a very significant business cycle signal.
Okay. So when you hear someone say under current financial history, just so you're aware, that goes back to January 1st of 1963. That does not deal with anything before then. Okay, just so you guys have a point of reference. Number 2, here's what I want you to see, and I'm going to go back a couple seconds on this.
We frequently reference the growth rate of the EPD coincident employment index.
Or not.
Non-farm payroll is
All right, we'll get to it in a minute.
Traditionally the most lagging of the metrics. Therefore, we almost always see the coincident employment index weaken and fall into contraction before non-farm payrolls, which is happening again today.
And all I really wanted you to see there was, hey, we have indications. That doesn't mean, that's not the one I want. There you go. That doesn't mean everything, because here's the other part. In December last year, they went, oh, we're revising all the numbers for employment this year. What's that? They put it on a Friday at 2 p.m. so that most people didn't notice it. They went, we're just revising every month down by an average of 510,000 people. Sorry about that, no big deal. Okay, so we will see some things that come about. What I want you to start seeing, though, is typically, if you see what happens when we have these sharp drops, what happens right after it? Recession. Okay, yes, it goes back up. But what happens before that is the recession. Okay. Well, not every single one, because you got one here, you got one here, you got one here, but they never crossed the line. Okay. And what he's saying, and I think this is one of the most important things he said on is, listen, we're 0.1% below the line right now. But we haven't even seen the first revision. It might come back where it's 0.3% above. We really don't know, but we're looking at the trend. And this is what I've been talking about for months with you guys, are these two trends for the last 12 months or so, when payroll is not keeping up. And by the way, this is not gauged on inflation. This is raw numbers. And unemployment is trending up. All right, so am I allowed to be political? I try not, but I try not to be, because I want to be respectful of people's thoughts. By the way, every administration does this. Okay, if the economy's going to crap, and I don't care if they're conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat, independent, they're going to throw as much money into the economy as they can to keep it going better so they can get reelected. Does that make sense? It's no different than when a CEO shifts the accounting a little bit to make the share price look better right before the end of the year, so that in March, he or she is not looking for a job. Okay? What have I been telling you guys about where most of the new jobs have come from for the last 8 months? Well, that's one of them, but where most of them coming from? Government. We've been hiring government funding going, no, look, the jobs are great. We just hired 10,000 new people for jobs that we don't actually need, which also gets paid for by taxes. So here's the thing I want you to see. Non-farm payroll income, the income is not dropping. It's just not going up. Does that make sense? It's ticking up, but less and less each time. Okay. And unemployment is going up. Yeah, we do want that. But here's what I need you to understand. Now, if you take all those government jobs out of here, the trend doesn't look like this. The trend looks like that. It depends on how you define a collapse. Well, if the government collapses, I'm not worried about those jobs. And yeah, using it as shadow inventory does make sense, Crystal. But what I'm saying is these numbers are still somewhat hidden because we're not looking at this as a level playing field, because they've been pumping so much money into the economy to keep it propped up. And what do you think happens? And I'm playing politics here, I get it. But what do you think happens if Trump and Test, 1, 2, 3, test.
We can hear you now.
Okay. Sorry, it was working before when I started. All I'm saying is, first of all, you have to understand the financial markets have all been propped up. I'm giving you my view, and any of you are more than welcome to argue with me. I think our stock market in general is probably overpriced by about 500% when you look at what revenues should be based off of company value. So but a 3% in this short a time turns into a 60% in a month and a half. Okay. And by the way, the stock market's due for a crash. Sorry, that's part of it.
Pedro, if you can hear us, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Okay, sorry.
Yes.
I think they gave me a defective microphone. If you stop hearing me, please tell me. Thank you. But again, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. That is our economy right now. Because if you're in the top 25 percentile, you're going, the economy is not bad. What are you talking about? And if you're in the lowest 25 percentile, it's hell on earth. And if you're in the middle, you ain't liking it. It may not be hell on earth. But you have to understand that the reason, one of the reasons Trump picked J.D. Vance is because he comes from a blue collar background. And the people who live in the places like he grew up are now having to decide if they're going to fill their car with gas so they can go to work, so they can buy food for their kids, or if they're going to buy food for their kids today. And so with all this being said, it depends on where your client is at as to how you want to approach them. But I want to go back to the point that just got made about election year. Please go get this chart. Just look up Fred median home price, and I'd say don't even do Denver Metro, I'd do the whole country. And here's why. Joe, I'm putting you on the spot. Joe, trivia time. In 2008, who became president? Okay. Democrat or Republican? Okay. And he served 8 years, right? So he left at the end of 2016. Okay. So that's where it started.
Yes.
Here's where it ended. Did the housing prices go up or down in general? Okay. Trump took over and then got out in 2020, right? Up or down? No, technically up. I'm looking at the trend overall. Okay, not that quarter. Biden came in 20. Up or down over the last 3.5 years? By the way, from 1963, when we started looking at this, what has the trend been every 4 years? The market doesn't care who's in office. This is where you have to start having real conversations with your clients around stop worrying about who's in office, start worrying about the kid that's on the ground there eating the crayon. Because you got, hey, he's going to be a Marine, okay? No, but what I'm saying is it doesn't really matter. Now, yes. Well, actually, sort of. Because the dollar goes up, but we keep devaluing the dollar. So it depends on which chart you look at, because I can argue it actually both ways. Yeah. Yes. Yes. And what I want you, right. And by the way, here's what I would do. I would take a red line and I would say, when did you buy a house? Okay, so Chris, when did you buy your first house? Yeah. 2009. Okay. But I would go, no, literally, guys, I'd go right here to 2010, and I'd put a horizontal line in there. Okay. Right where this point is. And just be horizontal, it'd be parallel with this gray line. And I'd say if you were a renter, that's where your net worth would be statistically. That red line. If you're a homeowner, you're the blue line. So, which is smarter being a renter or or homeowner. Of course, they're going to say homeowner. We get that. Okay, great. And this is for the entire country, Crystal. So let me ask you something. Could your house do better or worse possibly than this blue line? The answer is yes. So this can give us a general trend. And here's the thing. Would you want to wait from 2010 through now, 2024, to determine should you buy the house you really want? Because what would happen to the value of that house over the 14 years? Probably double, maybe a little less. But go get your good real estate now. By the way, I am telling every top producer, every one of my clients, every one of my friends, every one of my family members, get your credit up, pay everything off, and put some friggin' money in the bank because we're going to go have some fun. Because what you don't see on here is that, you see how you get these corrections here? You're going to have one here, and it's going to be a big one because you go up that quickly, you're going to correct more. So here's the thing. No, I don't think it'll drop below it, but I think we're going to see this trend continue for at least another 6 months. But I don't want to get into theory. I want you to get this. Put money aside. Get your clients to put money aside. If they don't want to buy today, awesome. Can you put 5 and 10 grand aside every month for the next 6 months? And if you can't, who can you put together with your family to do this? Because you're going to be very happy with me come right around December through February. Yeah, 512.
Overall, so when people are paying 50 purchase price, they're like listing that, and then they're matching that again. That's why I think that shoot, yeah, I actually could see it coming down.
I'm going to tell you why I disagree with you. Do you know what caused this rise right here? Nope. Lack of housing a little bit, I'll give you that. How much money did we put into the economy from a governmental point of view where we just printed money and devalued our money? Try about 3.4. Okay. We dumped all this money into the economy and went, please go spend it. So people went up. And so Chris is somewhat right with that of the lack of inventory, because lack of inventory plus extra money in it gets things like appraisal gap, where people go, I just want this house. Because they're being stupid with their money. Yes. Okay. But here's the thing. Have we taken all that COVID money out of circulation? Shake your head this way. So if you don't take it out of circulation, this won't drop as much. Now, the dollar got devalued. If you put more in circulation, each one is worth less. Okay, we all get the basic concept, supply and demand. But it's still the same dollars. Now, if I were to take devaluation out of this trend line would be a little less, okay? Because over time, things like that happen. Oh, by the way, everybody go, yeah, because we just hit $35 trillion in deficit. That happened about 3 days ago. By the way, do you know when we're going to hit 36 trillion? Christmas Day. Aren't we all just excited? That's if we don't increase our spending. The ones who can, that's that much of them.
Which made me feel safe because, like, at least the foreign entity of an LLC or government knew that our bond market was going to fare better than theirs, and so what people are currently. The question is like, at what point do those people who still purchase those homes, like foreclosure, all of that coming through? When you that this year?
I don't have any statistical information to give you a real answer. The answer is yes, we will see some foreign money coming, especially after things like the Nikkei dropped and all that. However, that's usually short-term money. They bring it in for a while until they find the next best thing and all that.
I'm thinking more people might sell, and if boomers retire, and there's such a large amount that we can more listings into our market, which is going to value our numbers.
Yeah, I would.
And that could get really quickly. I watched it.
No, and I get that. What I'm saying is, there,
And then we'd be finally balanced like we were 2006-ish.
maybe. And here's the thing, we're not there yet, but I want you to get where you need to go now. Is the market, and I'm asking you guys active live questions based off of what you know so far. Is the market going to get stronger for sellers or lesser? Weaker. Okay. By the way, that doesn't mean bad. Anybody know what the average days on market in the entire state of Colorado is right now? Because, by the way, you should know this. And that uses RE Colorado. That doesn't use the whole state. It's 76 for the whole state. Okay. Yeah, and that's your 76. And then another 30 days here. So by the way, for those of you who are realtors who, think that your commission is just a paycheck, please stop doing that. So that you're building your business, because here's part of it. You go, okay, yeah, I'm gonna list this property and I'll be paid 30 plus 76. Shit, that's 116 days. Okay. Start changing your budgets, your household budgets now. Trust me. I've been through this twice before.
Selling a house at 320, next door is on the market. Right? I got to thinking back in the crash before, in hard neighborhoods, say Commerce City, Inglewood, Southwest Denver, I got to looking at my calculator. What's that house worth? The rent, that's the mortgage, that's what it rents for. And so I stood in front of this house and this place was at 320. Seemed like a screaming deal. But if I actually put in price, that's 289 after it's picked up as a rental, right? So I got to thinking this house at what's going to occur in the market is this house at 625, $4,500 a month. Buy that thing, but I can rent it right now for $2,500. So what's going to happen is the pressure from rent is going to push upward, and the pressure downward is going to pull the market downward till they get closer to meeting, and that's when the market equalizes. Right. So
to some extent, yes. The problem, in theory, you're 100% correct. The problem is rents are now hitting the affordability index where they don't have as much to go up for non-owners as they did even 6 months ago. And I'm going to give you, for instance, I've got a 1,240 square foot place off of 78th in Washington, 2 beds, 1 bath, posted size backyard. 2,250 is the low end. The people who usually go in there, they're only making $35,000 to $50,000 a year. That becomes such a high percentage. By the way, this is also why your lovely state legislature right now is putting a bill in front of the legislature. I believe it's this month. It could be next. I think it's this month, to cap rents. Full rent control like they have in New York City. Now, here's the problem. Do you know what gets added to a rent-controlled property that the tenant has to pay for? There's a governmental fee. Well, we have to administer this, and they let the landlords pass it through. So in a new...
Prisoners, and so
I'm doing a sober living house with one of my clients right now.
It's $1,000 a bed, 2 guys in a room.
Yeah. And by the way, the HOAs are saying you can't put that here, but they're also talking about making sober living a, what do you call it, protected class.
And then it's interesting because they'll tighten up credit, but then they might allow low barrier, like percentages down, all those creative ways to get people through.
Well, I want, before we get to that, what's going on with rates?
They improved, but are you talking about how we're hearing more about it than what the actual change was?
But because we're hearing something, it's massive news, right?
Absolutely. It's exciting, people. Well, I would say mid-sixes. Yeah.
So the fact is that rates, lenders and investors hedge, which means they're already projecting 60 days out. So what we're looking at as lenders is what will the rate be in 60 days? So if I lock somebody today, it takes 30 days to close them, it takes me another 30 days to sell that on the secondary market. What is going to be the rate that I can get prime pricing that PennyMac is going to give me top dollar for, or Bank of America is going to give me top dollar? So we've been projecting these numbers. So when the market does what it does, and the news and media or the other lender on social and realtors are saying, oh my God, the rates dropped and 2 more million people are now qualified to buy homes. The fact is, we've already priced this in, projected it. We have the greatest minds out there doing what Cato does here, saying this is what needs to happen. So the rates didn't really move that much on our side. They moved a little, it's really the cost of the rate. So we've had 5.25 on our rate sheet for weeks, if not months.
Yeah.
It's just that the pricing got a little bit better on it than it was last, right? And so I don't know if that's what you're doing with this, but essentially the consumer doesn't realize it. They just see the shock and awe of the product, right? The marketing is really well done. Oh my God, rates, come buy a home right now.
And when you look at us, you're going over rates and recommending what they should buy down to. Here's the most you can pay the lowest rate possible. What I was quoting last week, then Friday and today, about 3/8 of the difference for the same price. So what we're seeing in our rate stack, exactly the same.
And I would caution anybody selling, when we talked about this a few moments before walking in here, somebody was pushing 2-1 buy down on an offer, right? So Levi's got a house listed and they turn around and he's got an offer that they want a shit ton for concessions and they're being told that it's for a 2-1 buy down. You should be doing no buy down right now. The lender, I'm going to ask you to spend money on a buy down when everything is indicating that our rates are going to go down. From that money on.
No, that's great.
Here's like where you should limit how much you put into a rate buy now, because recoup that expense when it's gonna make time in the future to refinance. Because I've had people in the past before, like before this market like started in 2020, that wanted the lowest interest rate possible and would pay all the money for it. But when I would run the numbers, it would take a lifetime of their loans to recoup their expense. Like, this is a really bad decision, but if that's what you want, take it.
Here's why I'm bringing all this up. As days on market increases, cost of things like inspection resolution increase too. Do you guys get that? That, hey, and because here's the thing you're going to find is this market shifts into a buyer's market. And it's more frustrating when you're the buyer's agent than when you're the listing agent. But Levi is my client. We buy Joe's house and we're under contract. We've gone through everything and Joe's gotten raked over the coals and all that. But He's like, I just got to get out of this, right? The problem is, we all know that Levi guy, right? He goes and he sees Chris's house a week before closing and goes, oh my God, that was so much better.
Gotta have
Gotta.
it. Did you see the granite?
And he goes, I'm willing to walk away from my earnest money, but I really don't want to. So you need to figure out how to get my earnest money back. And we need to terminate with Joe and we need to go buy Chris's. And by the way, you think it won't happen? I probably had 200 of those in my career between the 2000 crash and the 2008 crash.
If the willing to win and the buyer can walk.
Well, no, that's not true. If you actually read the contract, they at that point they can't leave on sole subjective. Okay. Tomorrow I'm teaching a class on how to write better contracts in the upcoming market. Next week I'm doing another one on redline. So, but tomorrow won't be redline. Tomorrow we'll just be talking about strategic. What I'm saying here, though, is when you look at what Chris is talking about and, oh, the buyers this, the buyers that, buyers, you better get in because we're priced there. By the way, if CPI comes in really strong, guess what the lenders are going to do with their rates? They're going to raise them. Because you have to understand all these regional banks, all these bigger banks, Chase being one of them, are all going, yeah, we don't feel real comfortable right now. So they're making as much margin as possible right now to make sure they can weather this storm that they know is going to happen. Because going back to what we started with, we've been propping up the economy and we're going, no, the vase looks great. We just put another piece of duct tape on it. That's style. How many of you watched the Brady Bunch when you were kids? Okay, and they kicked the ball in the house. Y'all know the episode I'm talking about? And they glued the vase. It's what we've been doing with the economy. And yes, I just dated myself there. Okay, but eventually that vase falls apart because the glue doesn't hold together. The reason we look at numbers is this tells us where we're trending. So start taking this stuff, sit down with your clients. And by the way, I got 5 of them right now that are doing that. I don't know if I'm ready to sell just yet. And so the conversation I'm having this week is that's awesome. But part of my email to you where I'm sending you this stuff is to say, the likelihood is you are going to lose money if you do not list now. Because there is a price correction coming. And I cannot give you any guarantees at all. But guess what? When I look at this infographics and I see our median price dropping, our days on market going up, our active new listings going down, our active listings that are already on market stay up, I got a pretty good indication of where this market's at and where it's going. This is where I'm getting my data from. Bob, where are you getting yours from? And by the way, if they don't want to sell because of personal reasons, cool, got it. But if they're trying to time the market, now's the time. Does that make sense? Yes, yeah, truly yesterday was the time.
I hear people saying like, I want to see what the feds do come September, but as Chris said, we do hedge things in advance. So even when the feds do cut the rate, that's still a long time between now and when they make that decision. They may drop it, but you might actually see mortgage rates increase because we lowered them like we were expecting lower. And so just because they cut the rates doesn't mean you're going to be in a better position.
And if the Fed cuts the rates, what happens to inflation in the current market we're in? Which means they have to do what? Raise the rates again. And by the way, if they cut them in September, they'll have to raise them right before the election. Now, granted, a lot of people will put their ballot in late September, early October, so they will have cast their vote. I get that. But before the official date, they will have to raise them because inflation will spike quickly. EPB. We're about 3.92 right now. And by the way, we are doing better, but we're showing the same trend. Okay. Now, I want to go back to something that Brett talked about that I think was key. He said, we never really fixed what happened in 2008. We didn't. We changed the accounting. Well, if we just move the decimal point, it all looks better. That's really what Frank Dodd did.
As realtors, they're basically trying to hedge out our position as part of what's done. So in my mind, I'm like, they are fixing the accounting, they're trying to get a hold of that.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Is the NAR settlement bad for you guys as realtors? Actually, I'd even disagree short term.
Good for us. I don't
But-
know.
Well, but here's the thing. If we just looked at RE Colorado and they were offering X as a percentage, how many times, and be honest, how many times did your buyers come in and go, well, that's not enough. I think I'm going to make sure you get paid more. Okay. But typically, no one did. It was you get paid whatever they offer. Now you're negotiating what you get paid before you go out. By the way, you were supposed to do it before anyways, because it was part of your agency. Okay. So I'm going to give you my practical advice right here. You ready? Put more in your contract than you know you're going to get. If you know you're going to get 3 apples, say 3.3. Because then when you only get 3, you have to do an addendum with broker for it that says, I am reducing my commission to help you out, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. Oh, and by the way, Kim, since I'm taking $1,960 less, there's 2 things I'm asking from you, and they're both very easy. You ready? I'm asking for a 5-star review on Google, and I'm asking you to help me find 1 client because you're going to be so happy with me that you want your family and friends to use me. Is that fair? Now, here's my other request. Don't tell them that I gave you a discount because that kind of screws me. You know, I'm not going to charge them more, of course, but do you see how this now became a benefit for your buyer? And by the way, do you know how many people get upset at me when I charge a high commission? Do you know why? Because I know how to explain my value to them.
And the seller's like, hey, is this a picture you're gonna use? And she's taking a picture on her phone, 1 picture. She's like, yep, 1%. Then she goes, and she puts down a yard sign and it's handwritten for sale. And they're like, is this the sign we're gonna use? And she goes, yep, 1%. She's like, by the way, I'm gonna be gone for 3 weeks and I'll be, and she's like, yep, 1%. And she just walks out. But she's like, that's what 1% looks like. They were apples, whatever you want to call it. But I thought it was like a perfect example of our value. You know,
Yeah.
you get what you pay for.
Yes.
But that right there is what I'm saying is you will get higher commissions and better pay if you do this right. Now, by the way, that means your customer service needs to be on par with whatever you're charging. Please do not misinterpret that of, hey, if I learn how to say it right, I just get more. No, the way I can explain it, by the way, do you guys know what one of my techniques for getting higher commission is? I hand them a list of, I think it's up to like 28 or 29 people here. And a couple of them I have highlighted in yellow, and a couple of them I have highlighted in pink. And the pink ones are at the bottom, the yellow ones are at the top. And I say, by the way, I'm not going to tell you exactly how much they spent or what their commission was. I said, but these ones at the top that are bright yellow, if you call them, they're going to talk about how it was the greatest thing they've ever been through. It was like going to Disneyland to work with me. And the ones in pink at the bottom, we had problems. And by the way, I'm going to ask that you call a couple from each category, and you can call anyone in between you'd like. And they always kind of give me that weird quizzical look, and I go, the ones when you call them on the bottom, I want you to ask him what happened and ask him to be absolutely honest with you. But I'm going to ask one question after that. What did Cato do to fix it? That's it. That's the only question I care about. You can ask anything else you want. And you know what's funny? Those people who were a little resistant on a higher commission come back after talking to those people that were highlighted pink and go, I'm cool with it. And only one of the people that's highlighted there did I give any of the commission back. And by the way, the reason I gave the commission back, I made a mistake. And I literally looked at her and went, this is 100% on me. I'm taking care of it. And I wrote the check. And the funny part was every single person I've dealt with goes, cool, got it. All I'm saying is people are willing to pay for quality. They're not willing to pay for crap. And if you don't believe me, go walk through the aisles of any store and look and see what is on the end caps, because that's the stuff the company makes the most margin on. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. Do you guys think that I might have slides from things like the Federal Reserve and these other websites and all this other stuff that I can show them? And I try and find out before I get to a listing appointment what industries they're in so I can find slides that hit their industries. It's weird and crazy, but it's like, hey, let's talk about what's going on with you. Because they don't give a crap about me. I'm a tool. I'm a hammer in their box. Does that make sense? So how do you work that stuff? I know Brett is starting to get into the REO scene. I will guarantee you from the little bit I know about him that he's now reading articles about what's going on with the banks. Jamie Dimon just put out a report the other day I haven't had a chance to read. I'm going to try and get to it tonight, where he's talking about how the economy is really screwed. By the way, he will probably be Secretary of the Treasury if Trump gets in. So I don't know if I think that's a great idea or a terrible idea, but is there?
Like them versus Republican. I'm always curious what that's the world crisis, and that can kind of, I mean, there's
So yeah, so there's always a world crisis. I mean, what most people don't understand is 26% of the world's goods move through the Middle East before they get to their destination. The Middle East has more to do with the ECB and their ability to hold their numbers steady. Here's the thing, we don't buy oil from Saudi Arabia anymore, but that's still oil on the market. If you remember 6-8 months ago, I talked about if the Russians don't get their oil back on the market before the pipes freeze, we'll lose about 5% of the world's oil. Hey, we don't buy Russian oil directly. However, you take 5% off the world's market, the price of all oil goes up because it's getting distributed and you're getting bids. Okay, these are the type of things that people don't understand. And I love, and again, I'm getting political, but it was because of an interview I saw. Trump, I think it was on MSNBC, and the one said, do you want Ukraine or Russia to win? And he said, I want people to stop dying. And she said, yeah, but who do you want to win? He goes, you don't understand me. I want the war to end so that Russians and Ukrainians stop dying. I think that's the perfect way of putting it, because it's the same type of thing in the Middle East. The Iranians are puppet masters in that they basically, feed all these people all this money. Well, where the hell do you think they got the money from, folks? Hey, you remember when the Biden administration lifted the embargoes on them, lifted the tariffs on them and all that, and then we gave them $800 billion? We're the reason Israel got attacked. you can argue with me all day long, and I can show you the money trail, because they sent it over to Hamas. They sent a bunch of the money to Hamas. Hamas got a bunch of new weapons, dug some new tunnels, and then did the December 7th. Or no, I'm sorry. What? Huh? October 7th. Thank you. I was like, I knew I was wrong. We play a massive role in that. But you have to understand is after we created the world, I cannot do no, when we created IMF and everything, I'm drawing a complete blank. You know, the security policy, world security policy back in 1944, well, we were policing the oceans. Well, we stopped policing the oceans, or I should say we started slowing down when the wall came down in East Berlin. And we've let our Navy drop further and further and further every year. We just aren't recommissioning, and it wasn't economical for us to do this. Well, that's part of the reason why you're starting to see all these uprisings. Let's see, there are 38 wars going on around the world right now. There's only 2 we really hear about here, but there's all kinds going on. I mean, Africa's got 17 or 18 of them. Anybody know there's 2 genocides going on in Africa right now? But we don't talk about that. That doesn't make us happy on Facebook. Okay, but it's all about resources. We're
I get why, but like also why is so much more beauty going on, but the money, the resources.
but what you have to understand, and I'm getting to a point here. So one of the main things that you need for electric vehicles is cobalt, which is mined almost completely in Africa. We are raping and pillaging countries over there to get this stuff so we can call ourselves environmental. And by the way, so we go and we destroy entire landscapes to get this stuff, pollute their water. Their people are basically enslaved. We bring it over, we refine it, we turn it into batteries, and then we use a coal-powered plant to make the electricity that the car runs on, and we call it good. It's a scheme, okay? And what? Yeah, well, we're just starting to see that now. But here's how this all translates. It's all tied in a big web. Don't get too involved. I don't want you guys getting too involved in the details. I want you to understand so that when your clients, if you walk in and your client has a Tesla sitting in the driveway, don't walk in and talk about cobalt mines destroying the world. Probably not the best way to start.
I'm like, oh, you drive it.
But you might want to talk about how Janet Yellen at our Treasury is trying to upscale or not upscale, what's the word I want? To upend some of the things that the Fed is doing. And I did hear your comment before that he couldn't be worse than her.
Well,
She's
I was just thinking, he couldn't be worse if you're on the fence of if it's a good thing or bad.
No, I get that. And we won't even go into she has a room temperature IQ when it comes to economics because she was a professor and has never had a real job, just everything's theory. All I'm saying is
That could finally get to be a woman president. This is our option. Such a letdown.
I had a buddy who I thought I have a buddy who is the biggest bleeding heart liberal to the point where the Obamas are like, settle down. Do you know what he said about Kamala Harris this weekend when we talked? He said, she's almost exactly AOC, just she doesn't even have bartending experience. And I went, wow. And for Brian to say that, I went, wow. And I'm like, so who are you voting for? And he goes, I'm just not. But he goes, I'd vote for RFK. He goes, but he doesn't even have a shot. He goes, I can't vote for Trump because I think he's a boy, I won't repeat his words. And he is so disgusted by this. What I'm saying is that's what creates indecision, which creates people doing what they're doing. Again, we're at the lowest savings rate almost in history, not quite, but the lowest like for the last 18 months this month. We're at the highest credit card usage ever, and we're getting to multiples. They've got pricing in. We've got active listings higher, not super high. All I want you to see is get an idea of what's going on and then go sit down with your client and say, listen, what do you think is going to happen with the economy? Let them talk. And by the way, they're not necessarily wrong because, okay, I will bet each one of you $100 that everything I say about the economy will not be correct. Okay? And I'll give you 5-to-1 odds. Because as much as I study it, I can't predict everything. Neither can your client. So don't belittle them. Don't talk down. Ask why. And by the way, what you're going to find is because in their sector, and I'm going to use my brother-in-law as an example. He just retired from being a stockbroker. He's like, this economy is great. I don't know why you're talking about it going down and, bringing all these illegal aliens in is good for our economy and blah, blah. Well, if you look at his sector, that statement actually makes sense. But he's at the top of the 25% of the top 25%. He can't even see the bottom. Does this make sense? But if I go to one of my rentals in Commerce City, where they don't speak English, they have a whole different worldview than he does. That's why I said it's a tale of 3 cities, because it's the top 25, the bottom 25, and the middle 50. All right, I just babbled too much. Yep. And you're going to see it again. Oh, one of the things I want to talk about, sorry, real quickly, because we're way over time. One of the things I want to talk about with the jobs that we don't know, because they start hiding some information, which I find very interesting. I can't tell you if this is all layoffs or if it's people coming back into the market. Part of the way they do this is the number of people looking for jobs. Well, how many of these are people who retired, who just burned through all their savings, who now have to go get a job at Walmart? That's a piece I don't have in there. But mark my word, with the pensions leaving all that, you're going to see more of that. You're going to see the average job age increase. Because you're going to see a bunch of 70-year-olds getting back into the market going, crap. Like my brother-in-law always got money. It's all in stock portfolio. And I'm like, move some of this to precious metals, dude. I'm telling you. And in his opinion, we're not 500% over. We're way under. It can take way more. Well, that's what he learned. I'm just telling you based off of historical trends. No, we're over. And look at what happened in China with their housing market. That's our stock market right now. So.
Which is why you're saying so.
I'm saying sell now because it's not going to get better. If you're downsizing, sell like yesterday. If you're upsizing, rates aren't going to get, we're not going back to 3% anytime soon. So do what you got to do. But part of it is in the last 10 years, we've also gotten where people do well, I'm just going to buy the 5,000 square foot house instead of the 3 when the 3 fits them well. Hey, guess what? 7.424 is the 25-year historical average for rates. That is very doable. Okay. We've proven it. So they're like, 7.5, I'm going to die. No, because what we had the last 10 years wasn't realistic. It wasn't maintainable. We basically borrow from Peter to pay Paul. Well, Paul just showed up at the door. He's pissed and he wants it with interest. Does that make sense? In retirement? Well, they're going to move to states without income tax and without dividend tax. Well, Wyoming, Tennessee, Washington, or Florida. You know, the problem is, hey, look what's happening in Florida right now with that storm making landfall. They assume another 18 to 19% of people are going to get, we have dropped your insurance letters. By the way, check your mail, because it's happening in Colorado too. We just found out last week. Insurance carriers are just saying something saying you are no longer insured. People are going, but I have a mortgage and I have a contract with you. And they're going, yeah, we don't care about the contract. We're not insuring. And so if you had $1,800, they're going, well, you can reinsure, but it's going to be $3,600. Yeah, like we're getting it a lot. And so what I'm telling you is make sure that there's your reason to call your clients this week, right there. Hey, I need you to know a number of companies, all state included, which you have, is now sending out letters. So please check your mail. I don't know if they're going to do it to you, but we are hearing that this is going on in the state. Okay, by the way, it's mostly happening to people who had their roofs replaced last 2 years. No, but that's not what's the word I want? Focusing on one group. Okay. They don't want people that have to pay out on claims. All right. I got to get to my house to meet with a guy who's fixing my stuff. So on that note, you guys have a great day. Go get a listing.